Hello everyone, my name is Marina M, and I'm going to be going in depth on the local issue of agricultural land reserves in Richmond. An agricultural land reserve is land that is set aside for farming. They are set aside by the Agricultural Land Commission, which was established in 1970. The Commission's purpose is to preserve agricultural land, to encourage farming in collaboration with communities of interest, and to encourage local governments to enable and accommodate farm use of land and uses compatible with agriculture in their bylaws. The Commission makes all decisions on land exclusions from the ALR. The land here in Richmond is desirable for farming as it is fertile and flat. About 4,993 hectares of Richmond land is an agricultural land reserve. This makes up 39% of the city. It was originally about 5,500 hectares in 1974, but since then has been reduced by 10.8% to its current size. The reduction is shown on this map of Richmond, with the yellow areas being land that has been excluded as an agricultural land reserve, and the green areas being agricultural land reserves that are existing currently. Something interesting to note would be the black shaded areas, which represent the ALRs that were proposed to be excluded but refused. Here is a closer look on the parts of Richmond that is currently an agricultural land reserve. This includes much of East Richmond, more specifically land along No. 5 Road and land in Garden City. As well, there is a large agricultural land reserve south of Steveston Highway. What Richmond has been doing is selling this profitable land to developers and converting northern areas, such as Fort Nelson and Prince George, into agricultural land reserves instead. So what are the issues, stakeholders involved in this, and what do I think about it? Well, let's start with the issues. Firstly, Richmond is facing tremendous growth in its population. In fact, in 2000, Richmond was the fourth most populous municipality in BC. The city needs more housing and more jobs to support this growth, and this land taken up by farms could provide the space needed to accommodate these things. According to this graph, the population of Richmond in 2021 is predicted to be larger than Richmond's population has ever been before, so it is easy to see why the demand for developing farmland is so high. Another issue that surrounds this concern is environmental concerns. Developing the land would mean destroying the habitats of the diverse wildlife that call these lands home. It would also ruin the fertility of the soil, meaning that if this land were to be converted back into farmland in the future, the process would take years. Transforming the agricultural land reserves in Richmond would also greatly contribute to air pollution, as the development would require the burning of fossil fuels and would also attract more cars to the area. Lastly, developing this land would reduce the amount of produce Richmond can grow, resulting in a greater reliance on food that must be imported from other areas. This means more food will have to be transported into Richmond, an action that would enlarge our carbon footprint. There are also many economic and financial concerns with excluding our farmland from an agricultural land reserves. On one hand, the land in question is very desirable and developers would pay a large amount of money for them. This money would benefit both the city and the owners of the land. This land could also be used for port expansion, which could create more jobs in Richmond and boost our economy. But on the other hand, developing on Richmond's farmland could result in a decline of income from ecotourism and agritourism. And as I mentioned earlier, it would also create a heavier reliance on imported foods, which could prove to be costly. And lastly, an issue involved with the transformation of the agricultural land reserves in Richmond is the change it would create in Richmond's atmosphere. On one side, developing these lands would forever alter the natural look of Richmond, which has been called Richmond's legacy viewscapes. Many of Richmond's open spaces, abundance of greenery, and diverse trails would be lost, disappointing many citizens. In addition to that, green and scenic settings are positively linked to mental health, along with promoting physical well-being, a factor of Richmond that would be destroyed with the selling of these lands. But on the other side, developing these lands would reduce, if not eliminate, the conflict that has arisen with farm properties. These include complaints of noise and smell, and problems with vandalism of farms and theft of farm property. So who are the stakeholders involved? Well, there are those that are for moving agricultural land reserves in Richmond up north. These include Port Metro Vancouver, who wants to buy some of Richmond's farmlands for port expansion, and private land developers who are willing to pay a large amount of money to build on this land and supply the need for more housing in Richmond. Then there are those who are against moving Richmond's agricultural land reserves. This group is made up of environmental advocacy groups such as the Garden City Lands Coalition Society and the Sierra Club BC. They claim that the environmental damage developing this land is too large to be acceptable and want to protect Richmond's farmlands from transformation. However, most of the stakeholders involved here have either mixed opinions or are undecided. The people that own this land fit into this group. They include farmers, farm organizations, and soil proprietors. Some want to keep their farmland protected under the ALR, while some want to be able to sell their land to high-paying developers and put the money they could gain towards other endeavors, such as retirement. Richmond's government also fits into this category. While they have made the decision to exclude some land from the ALR in the past, the city seems unwilling to let go of all its farmland. The mayor, Malcolm Brodie, for example, has said in articles that he does not want to move all of Richmond's agricultural land reserves. However, his mind could easily be changed. Citizens of Richmond are also divided on this issue. Those that are against moving the lands are mostly concerned with the damage it could have on the environment and the changes it would have on Richmond's atmosphere. Those for it are mostly concerned with the possible economic benefits moving this land could create for the city. And the last group of stakeholders are citizens and governments of the areas where the land would be moved to. These areas would be in northern BC, such as Fort Nelson and Prince George. Some might want an increased amount of farmland for their community due to the environmental benefits and natural atmosphere it would create. Some, however, do not want any ALRs in their community due to possible noise and smell and the lack of space for other development in the future. After researching all the issues and stakeholders involved with selling Richmond's agricultural land reserves to developers, I was able to form my own opinion on the subject. And I personally am against moving this land up north to make way for development. Being a rather passionate environmentalist, the potential environmental damage the development of these lands would cause is too great for me to be comfortable with. For one, the farmlands serve as an efficient carbon sink. Developing them would mean destroying one of Richmond's main reducers of greenhouse gases. Not only that, but development would eventually add to Richmond's carbon footprint due to the increased amount of buildings and cars it would result in. And the last thing we need is more air pollution. Selling the lands to developers would also be catastrophic for much of Richmond's wildlife. Many species live in and around these lands, and developing on them would destroy their natural habitat. It would also destroy Richmond's fertile soil. The soil would take years to become fertile again after development, making the option of ever converting this land back into farmland difficult. Without the farms, Richmond will not be able to produce as much produce, restricting local eating options. However, I also don't want to see Richmond's agricultural land reserves develop because I don't want to lose Richmond's natural landscape. I have been living in Richmond almost all my life, and I have become attached to the scenic beauty of the city. Much of Richmond's community has been built from its natural and unique landscape. The agricultural land reserve has provided us with beautiful trails, an abundance of fresh open space, and an atmosphere that is comforting and homey, and a higher quality of life. As quoted from the Garden Cities Coalition's website, we don't want all these big concrete buildings, and for that reason I hope that the agricultural land reserves in Richmond are here for the good. So thanks for listening, everyone. I hope that you learned something new about Richmond's farmland. Our city is beautiful, and if we work together, we can keep it that way.